Welcome to day 1 of the Get Stretchy Challenge. Our first pose is tree pose, and this is a great pose to start off with because it requires balance. It also requires flexibility in the front hip of the standing hip, and then also external hip rotation of the leg that is lifted. So when you're in this pose, you want to think about first grounding the toes of the left foot, or which foot you have down on the floor. So that left foot is down on the floor. You want to think about grounding down through your big toe, your pinky toe, and your heel. You want to think of it almost like a little rectangle, and you imagine all 4 corners of that rectangle really rooted down into the floor, because that is your foundation. Everything moves from the feet up. If you're not aware of what's going on with your feet, most likely your tree is going to be super off balance. So you really want to be aware of your toes, spreading those toes out nice and wide like tree roots down into the floor. Now, moving up the leg, there has to be some lift that happens. So you're going to engage the quad and lift up here. So you might be really tight in the hip flexors, and so you'll know that you're tight if when you're in tree pose, you're kind of sitting the hips back like this. So if you're kind of pushing the butt back and you're kind of swaying the low back forward like this, then you know that you probably have tight hip flexors. So I'm going to go over how we can stretch that out. And the other part of this is just making sure that you're not sinking in the hip. So that's a big common mistake I see when going through this pose. When in this pose, I see people pushing the foot into the thigh and then kind of just sitting and sinking into this left side. So you want to engage those outer hip muscles, those outer glute muscles, and lift up through the front of the hip. So that does require a little bit of a stretch here. So that's the foundation, that's the left side. So that's the technique of it and some common mistakes I see. Now for the lifted leg, you want to have the foot pressing flat into the side of the thigh. So the foot is pressing into the thigh, and so there is an equal and opposition of energy. So the foot's pushing into the thigh is pushing into the foot. So that's where the energies come in and lift up. So it's like that, almost like a toothpaste, right? When you're squeezing into the toothpaste, the energy shoots up because both sides are equally pressing. So you want to think about that here. So you can see how I'm kind of wavering a little bit, right? Your body's always trying to balance itself, which is a beautiful thing. So even just standing here, you're going to feel the foot working a lot, especially if you're in the sand like me. So one common mistake that I usually see is people press into the knee here. So we don't want to push into the joints like that. We want to make sure that the foot is pressing up into the thigh. Now, if this is too high for you, you can place the foot on the calf and eventually work your way up into the middle of the thigh. Now, one thing that I see is some people just don't have the external hip rotation in this pose, and that's the stretch that we're going to work on. So we're going to work on opening up the front of the thighs and then also opening up the outer hip. All right, so one of the first poses that you can do to help stretch the front of the thighs is going to be our Tadasana pose. Now, it may seem super simple, but Tadasana is an amazing foundational pose, so I wanted to cover it here in this video. The big toes are together, the heels are slightly apart. So you want to pull up through the fronts of the thighs. So the toes are together, the heels are slightly apart, and you're pulling the navel in and up. So the navel is always slightly engaged in every pose. I would say about 30 to 40% active, because it's containing all of the upper body and the lower body. It's connecting the two sides together. So you want to pull the navel in and up, and you're going to feel the fronts of the thighs stretching out here a little bit. And you want to think about elongating the back of the spine and drawing the ribs down. So when you do that, you're going to feel a little bit of a stretch in the front of the thighs. So go ahead and take your Tadasana pose. Bring those toes together and heels slightly apart. So for someone like me, I hyperextend my knees, so I actually can't just let my legs lock all the way back. I bend my knees slightly to bring everything in line. Now you might not have the hyperextended legs, so you might just be able to lock and pull the thighs up normally without thinking about bending the knees. You would only bend the knees if you have hyperextended knees like me. So have those thighs engaged. Pull up through the front of the abs so that it stretches the front of the thighs and also elongates the spine. Draw the ribs down. Now the shoulders are over the hips. And then anytime you take Tadasana pose, you can have the hands open like this. You can reach the arms up overhead, making sure that the pinkies are forward and the thumbs are back. So it's like as if you were shaking someone's hand, and you just lift those arms right up overhead without letting the ribs open, without letting the belly drop. So pull the lower abs in, draw the ribs down, continue to pull the front of the body up, and reach the sides of the waist up. So the fingers are reaching up nice and long, and then release it down. Nice job. All right, and one more stretch that you can do for the front of the thighs is probably my favorite one to open up the fronts of the thighs, is our low lunge. So you're gonna step the right foot forward, and you can bring the hips forward like this. Now, you wanna think about, again, pulling the lower abs in and up. So this would be your first or your second stretch. So you have the Tadasana pose, and then we have our low lunge. So you can hold here for about 5 to 10 breaths, sitting up nice and tall through the spine, lifting up through the top of the head, really pulling the abs in, which is going to stretch the front of the thighs even more. And then our next stretch is going to help open up that external rotation, right? So when you're in tree pose, that top leg, the knee is open and lifting and stretching. So one really great stretch to start out with for external rotation is your figure 4 stretch. So let's come to the back of our mats. You're gonna lay all the way down, laying down flat on the floor. Just go ahead and pull the knees in towards your chest to begin. And again, I always slightly have my lower abs engaged. Good job. Now you're just going to take one foot, flex the foot, make sure it's nice and flexed, and you're going to place it over the right knee. And then you're going to thread the hands through and grab the opposite knee if that's available to you, or maybe just underneath the thigh. And you want to just relax the shoulders down into the floor and just breathe and relax here for about 5 to 10 breaths on each side. Now, if that is still too much and you're not able to comfortably grab your knee, so if you're going like this and you're kind of lifting the head up and it's really, really compact here in the neck, then you know that you need to modify this pose. So what you can do is use this. So you would take your strap, lay back down on your back, take the strap over the opposite foot and go ahead and just reach it up towards the sky. So one foot is down on the floor and one foot is in the strap reaching up. Then you're going to hold on to the foot, let the foot come down a little bit, bring the other leg up, and then cross it over the thigh. Then from here, you can use your hands to pull the leg in as far out as you need to or as far in as you can. This will just help give you space and help you to keep the neck and the back nice and long. All right, so definitely have that strap handy because that will help to bridge that gap there. All right, so just to review quickly, we have our tree pose. So looking at the alignment of our tree pose, you want to make sure that you're pressing into all 4 corners of that foot. You're lifting up and elongating through the front part of the thigh. You're pulling the navel in and up to help support the balance and elongate the spine. The foot is pressing firmly into the thigh, and the thigh is pressing firmly into the foot. The hip is open, so we learned the figure 4 stretch to do that. And then we also learned the low lunge stretch to help open up the front of the thighs. And then here we engage the lower belly into the core, and you can press the palms together, and you want to hold this pose for 5 to 10 breaths. All right, so go ahead and have a friend take a picture of you doing the tree pose, post it on Instagram, tag me Action Jacqueline and Get Stretchy, and then use the hashtag Get Stretchy every day, and go ahead and communicate and get involved with the rest of the community because we want to hear from you. We want to hear your experience, and I can't wait to see you on Instagram. All right, and then I will see you tomorrow for day 2, so make sure you check your inbox tonight. Bye.